Hey everyone, this is Keith Scott from out in Sydney, Australia. I'm one of the voices of Bullwinkle J. Moose. It's time to watch Relentless and Unstoppable. And so give it up for your main hosts, Douglas Kenny and Andy McPhee.
Hey everybody, this is Doug Kenny and welcome to Relentless and Unstoppable. We have another amazing guest coming on the channel today, so please hit like and subscribe. And after this episode, please stay tuned to the RNU channel for more amazing guests. Let's get this on!
Hey everybody, how you doing? Just a quick little share of why I started Relentless and Unstoppable. It was for one very simple reason, because of Doug Kenny. Nothing to do with me at all, zero. I was just coaching Doug, and he took on the coaching and mentoring, and he made all the changes. He took all the suggestions from his parents as well as my coaching, but it was all about Doug, his breakthrough and his weight loss, his willingness to accept that he is dealing with high functioning autism and other issues, but he's never quit, he's never given up. So we did one interview with him to share his story, and then we decided to start interviewing other people, and Doug has now taken over the whole channel, and he does all the interviews, he runs everything. He's just an amazing young man. So RNU was born from simply what an amazing young man Doug is, and his story needed to be shared.
So I was touring with a couple bands, and things were, pretty good, and my bands broke up, and, I was getting older. I spent so many years studying and training to have a career in entertainment. So when you spend that many years doing something, you don't want to just change your job. You don't want to just be like, oh man. I even went to college thinking that I was going to change my job. I went for software development, but then my college shut down, as if that wasn't a sign. And I moved to California in 2011, my first time. I ended up working behind the scenes at Jimmy Kimmel Live for like 7 months with Don Barris. And then Don Barris put me on his show at the Comedy Store called The Ding Dong Show. Yeah, and so I was performing music and comedy almost every night of the week. It was supposed to be, only on Monday nights, but then it ended up me just following Don around every night of the week. So I would be there every night performing with people like Jeff Ross and, everyone. I've met every single person I could think of that I was, hoping to meet back at the time, And so, right out the gate, I really got over the whole celebrity thing. I got over meeting people because I was like, okay, well, you can meet every single celebrity that exists. It's not going to help your own career. It's not going to push your own career. So idolizing other people is not the way to go.
Yeah, you can still look up to them, though. That's pretty interesting that you and I have something in common. I've had the odd distinction of meeting famous people as well, but mostly race drivers because I'm a motorsports fan, but I've met some celebrities too.
Well, that's cool. Well, and I realized that. I was like, if you're in the industry that you want to work in, then everybody kind of is a celebrity to you if you've done your research, Because I would meet people and be like, oh my God, I can't believe that is John H. Benjamin. And the friend I'm with is like, who? I'm like, how can you not know who he is? And it's like they know who he is, but they didn't know him by name, or they didn't know him for some reason that I did. So I was like, I just don't get how you don't know the person you're standing in front of right now. And it just, after a while, I started realizing, I was like, oh well, if somebody that I'm friends with is a doctor and they're trying to become one of the best doctors in the field, their celebrities are going to be doctors in the field, So when they meet somebody like, oh my God, that's Dr. blah, 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 and it's like, what? So to us, I think what's so funny is celebrities aren't just people in movies. Celebrities are anyone that we celebrate,
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually scheduled this Friday, depending on if it goes according to plan, to make an appearance at an auto show up north in Scottsdale with 24 Hours of Daytona champion Kevin Buckler and the Racers group.
Oh, congrats. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm hoping it works out, but it's in place at the moment, you know?
Yeah.
So something happened to you in 2011 that led to you running away to LA? What was that about?
Well, you know, in retrospect, it's like the least sad thing now, but my ex and me broke up in 2011, and then I was just like, man, you know, I was like, I don't want to stay in Louisiana anymore, and just, yeah, I geared myself towards going towards a career that I've been dreaming of, and I think it's the best thing that happened to me, because if I wouldn't have gone to California in 2011, if I wouldn't have, you know, met the people I worked with, I wouldn't have the confidence I do, and I wouldn't have been able to build like this foundation in my network with people who could give me like the best information on how to achieve goals that I have now, you know?
Yeah. So you ended up homeless for a bit until you took Robert Downey Jr.'s advice?
So this is kind of a convoluted point in the story, but it's like I was homeless multiple times, and it was, to be honest, I don't regret any of it. In 2011, I had an apartment with the person I moved out there with, but I think, you know, I was only out there for 3 weeks, and I had already gotten on Jimmy Kimmel Live to work behind the scenes with Don. So I think everything that I was doing out there was happening so fast that the people that I was friends with, that I went out there with, I think that they didn't, I don't want to say they were jealous, but like, I think one of the guys just wasn't very happy that, you know, this is a place he'd been living and been trying to succeed in. And here I am, I move in, you know, sleeping on his couch, and 3 weeks later I'm already doing big things. So one day I came back to the apartment and he changed the locks, and I was like, that's messed up, man. So all my stuff is in the hallway. So for a week and a half I was sleeping on park benches, and I was sleeping mainly on the park bench outside of, you know, the Comedy Store, because it was just safer. The Comedy Store was almost open all night, you know, so it was really safe for me. But I didn't like it. I was like, yeah, I don't want to be out here, you know, just sleeping on the park bench. So one day, Robert Downey Jr. came to Jimmy Kimmel, and he was talking to people, and it was like 3 or 4 of us, and I was in this group, and he was talking to us, and he's like, you're from Louisiana? He's like, I just bought a home out there. You just built or bought? He's like, I just bought a home out there. So you should go home. And I was like, okay, I guess that's, you know, time to get back. He was basically telling me that, or telling us, the people he was talking to, that Louisiana was going to be the future of film. He was saying, he's like, oh, that's where film's going. And he was like, yes, there's a lot of people going there to film. The tax credits are going to be amazing there. So a lot of things were just pointing at, hey, go home, you know, go back home. Don't stay out here sleeping on park benches. You could go home, you know, people back home you could work for and stuff. So I went back to Louisiana, and in 2013, my college shut down, and my job made me quit because they said they didn't want a college boy. They were like, oh, we want someone who can work here 24/7. We, you know, don't want someone who's educating themselves right now. So I was like, all right, great. So I lost my job and my college shut down. I had no choice. I had no other choice but to take this extra gig that somebody with a flyer in the mall had given me. Like, yeah, I'm doing this movie, James Marsden. We're looking for extras. And so I got on set of that, and James Marsden on that set, I actually got to talk to him, and he was like, yeah, he's like, this could be a really good job. And he said that he knew people that started from being an extra and they actually became actors, and he said that if you like acting you might not work as much, but it's very rewarding. And it just seemed like a career that I never actually gave a shot. I was out in California, I'd done auditions in California, I never landed any of them, but I never really gave it the effort that it deserved. So I was like, okay, if I can get a one-liner in a major motion picture within a year, and I said this in 2015, I said, if I can get a one-liner in a major motion picture within a year, then I'm doing the right thing. Or within 5 years, excuse me. A year would be impressive, but I was like, if I can get a one-liner in a major motion picture within 5 years, I know I'm doing the right thing. If I can't get a one-liner in a major motion pictures within 5 years of acting, then it's not meant for me. And I felt like that was a pretty good gamble, you know, a pretty good goal to set. I know some people probably acted 10 to 15 years without ever getting a role in anything, and then they started booking roles. But I never see my work ethic like that. I see it as like, okay, I'm going to do what some of the greats have done to get there, and I'm going to bust my backside. If I can't do this within a certain amount of years, then I can't just keep wasting years and getting older. So let me give it that shot. 2015, sometime around February, I told that to myself. I told myself that's what I was going to do. I booked a lead role, or the second billed lead, on a sci-fi movie in the same year. So I feel like if you give yourself that time, if you tell yourself, look, I'm going to do this, that's going to happen. But digressing, years went by, and in 2000, or actually not even years, just 3 years went by. In 2019, I went back into California. That was my third time living there. I went back in California, and I went just for one movie. It's called Sven. You can find it right now. It's online everywhere, and it's a short film called Sven, S-V-E-N. There were only 4 actors in it, in the entire movie, and one of the actors was one of the main actors from Sons of Anarchy, Andy McPhee, and one actor was one of the actors from Roseanne, or the new Roseanne show, The Connors, and the other actor had been on a lot of things. So I was like, okay, it would be me and 3 actors who are, doing a great job right now. They're all kicking ass, and they've all worked and done great things. I'm like, I'd be honored to work with these actors. Cool. So it was a cast of 4. It wasn't paying, and it was only 1 day of work. But something told me to do it. Something inside my stomach was just telling me, you should go do that. It seems crazy to go all the way to California, drive all the way to California for 1 day of work. But I just wanted to do it. Something told me that it was the acting that I've been craving to do. So I went out and I did that. Now this is like, I've already acted in Tom Hanks' Greyhound. I've already acted in a bunch of films, Queen Slim, Project Power. But this movie was just, it was more of like the emotional. I found out I was going to be in a wheelchair in the film. I found out that I had to play a character with ALS. So there were a lot of people who were, kind of upset about that. They're like, why would you get a capable actor when you can get an actual handicapped actor? And I was like, you can't. I have friends that, ended up with ALS, and they can't act like they are dying in a movie. They can't act because they are ALS patients. You can't expect someone who is stricken with a debilitating disease to be able to act. So the doing the movie itself was already like going out on a limb, because I knew people were going to be mad at me, because people were already telling me, you shouldn't take that part. It's a handicapped part. You shouldn't take that part. And I did anyways, because I knew, I was like, well, no one else is going to be able to do this, because other people don't want to touch that material, and then they want you to get someone who is an ALS patient, and they wouldn't be able to do this. It'd be hard to even get them to be able to read the script. It's crazy that people assume that what is on screen needs to be real, that it doesn't need to be actors portraying things like it's supposed to be. They want it to be real. It's weird. So I did the part, and then because I was stuck in California, I got an apartment out there, and I sunk all my money into it, and then the apartment was ransacked. It had a huge hole in the wall from flooding, or from the pipes busting, and just had to put a hole in the wall to break all the pipes and stuff. So one day I come downstairs, and there's a bunch of construction workers just eating sandwiches, sitting on the couch, and walking in and out the big hole in the wall. And I was like, I'd rather be homeless. I'd rather be homeless than have to spend all my money in a place like this. I was like, I just can't. It was a nice apartment too. The roommate I worked with was Oprah's photographer, and he was always gone. So I was like, dude, I can't take care of this place. I can't. This isn't for me. So I got in my car. I loaded up in my Jeep, and me and my dog just pulled up on the side of a safe street somewhere and began my homeless journey. I was homeless. I was only homeless for 3.5 months out there, 3 months. It wasn't extremely long. There's people who are homeless for years and years, but just in those couple months, I kept telling myself, I was like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't just, not know how often I can shower, if the YMCA is open, if it's got space. I don't want to, that's terrible. I don't want to do that. So I just I told myself, I was like, all right, I got to drive back. I got to go back. I just don't know when. I got to go back to Louisiana. I got to get down there. fast forward, something happened in California that I can't say, but it was so scary, and I witnessed something so scary in California that I was like, I'm leaving. It got me off my butt. I was like, yeah, I'm done with California. I'm done. So I just left, drove to Arkansas, visited my mom, and then drove to Louisiana. And when I got back to Louisiana, a friend of mine from Greyhound with Tom Hanks, a friend of mine from the set, who actually was an extra on the set. So a lot of people, and he ended up becoming my stand-in. A lot of people were like, there's this weird hierarchy where actors on the cast don't like to hang out with extras. And I get it, because some extras, they walk right off the street and get a job, right? There's no vetting, there's no auditions, no agents, no any representation. So they're just people that come off the street, and they can be crazy. And a lot of times they have been. So I get why people are skeptical about hanging out with extras. But to me, they're still just people like us, and sometimes those people could go on to be the next big actor. You never know. So I respect everyone I meet. So I'm respecting this guy, and I'm glad I did, because when I came back from California and I didn't have a place to live, he was really cool, and he had a house, and me and him got to move into that house. So everything happened perfectly, like, timed the way it was supposed to be. But I don't recommend that people just, go homeless. But I feel like if something inside you tells you, hey, give up that apartment and that job and all your comfort and drive across country, because this one night and this one gig and this one movie could lead to something good. And it did, because I came home, we got that house. I was living in Marrero, which is right next to New Orleans. Mm-hmm. And I got the phone call that the guy that I did the movie with in California was making a full-length feature. It was budgeted. It was going to pay me really, really well, and I was going to go to Connecticut and do it with him. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad that I was homeless for 3 months. I was very glad that I was, because here I am now driving to Connecticut. And when I got to Connecticut and I did this movie, I was a second build lead in that movie as well. It's called Northern Shade. It's on Tubi right now. It's awesome. It's one of the best movies that I've done, and it's such a good film. It speaks numbers. It's really important. And it's the first time that I witnessed that, like, art disconnect, where you make your own art, you're your worst critic, and you're like, oh man, I really hope people like my performance, or, I hope people like this thing we created. And you're nervous, and you're thinking, like, oh, it can't do that bad, can it? And then when it comes out, it just kills it. Like, it sells out, the DVDs sell out, people love it, it's all over the place. And I was really surprised that people love the movie so much. And that film itself looked so good on my demo reel that I'm sure that it helped me get FNAF. And I'm sure that 5 Nights and that helped me get Skate to Hell. So I'm glad I was homeless.
Gee, that's all we have for Relentless and Unstoppable. So tune into the next episode to hear more amazing stories from amazing guests. This is Keith Scott from Sydney, Australia, saying so long, and I'm smarter than the average bear. Gee.